Rain fell softly against the city streets that night, turning the glow of streetlights into hazy halos. The skyscrapers shimmered in the distance like silent sentinels guarding a sleepless world. Inside the black luxury sedan, Ethan Cole, the 34-year-old CEO of Cole Enterprises, sat quietly in the backseat, staring out at the rain-streaked window. It had been another exhausting day: board meetings, endless contracts, people who smiled to his face but waited for him to fall. His world was made of numbers, deals, and deadlines. Only one thing grounded him: his daughter, Lily, who was sleeping peacefully beside him with her favorite stuffed bunny tucked under her chin. They had just left a late charity gala, one of those events Ethan attended out of obligation rather than desire. His late wife, Claire, used to love such nights. But since her passing 3 years ago, the world had felt emptier, quieter, and colder. As the car glided past an old park, a faint voice came from beside him. "Daddy," Lily murmured, rubbing her sleepy eyes, "why is she sleeping on the bench?" Ethan followed her gaze. There, under the flickering light of a broken street lamp, sat a young woman, no more than 22. Her knees were drawn to her chest, her thin sweater soaked from the rain. Her hair clung to her face, and a small, tattered backpack lay by her feet. She was shivering, eyes closed, as if trying to disappear from the world around her. For a moment, Ethan said nothing. He saw hundreds of people every day, employees, investors, strangers, but this girl made his chest tighten. There was something haunting about the way she sat there, fragile and forgotten. "She's probably waiting for someone," he said quietly, though even to himself, the words sounded hollow. Lily frowned. "But Daddy, it's raining. She doesn't have a blanket." Ethan glanced again. The rain was falling harder now, the wind blowing through her damp hair. He thought of how small and helpless she looked, and how many nights he himself had sat awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone still cared. "Sir," the driver asked hesitantly, "should I keep going?" Ethan hesitated. Logic told him yes, but his heart whispered no. "Stop the car," he said finally. The sedan slowed to a halt beside the park. Ethan stepped out, the cold rain immediately soaking his suit. Lily watched from the window, her little hands pressed against the glass as he approached the girl on the bench. "Miss," he said softly, "are you all right?" She flinched and sat up straight, fear flashing in her tired eyes. I'm fine," she stammered. "Please, I'll move. I wasn't causing trouble." Ethan shook his head. "You're not in trouble." He crouched slightly, his voice gentle. "You're freezing. Do you have somewhere to go?" Her lips trembled. "No, not anymore." The simplicity of her answer pierced through him like a blade. No dramatics, no excuses, just quiet defeat. Without another word, he slipped off his long coat and placed it over her shoulders. "You'll get sick out here." She looked at him in disbelief, clutching the warm fabric. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone should," he said simply. Behind him, a small voice called out, "Daddy." Lily had stepped out of the car, holding her bunny tightly, rain dampening her curls. She ran up to them, eyes wide with innocent concern. "Daddy, can she come with us? Please." Ethan turned to his daughter, torn. Bringing a stranger home was not something a CEO, or a father, should do. Yet looking at the girl, trembling and lost, he couldn't walk away. The girl shook her head frantically. "No, I can't. I don't want to be a burden. I'll be fine." Ethan sighed. "You're clearly not fine." Then, seeing Lily's pleading face, his voice softened. "All right," he said finally. "Come with us. Just for tonight." The girl's eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered again. Ethan looked at her steadily, rain dripping from his hair. "Because my daughter asked me to, and because I've been where you are." For a long moment, she stared at him, her lips trembling. Then she nodded silently. He guided her to the car, opened the door, and let her sit beside Lily, who handed her the stuffed bunny with a smile. "You can hold Mr. Bunny until you're warm," Lily said sweetly. The girl gave a soft, cheerful laugh. "Thank you." When Arya opened her eyes the next morning, for a moment she thought she was dreaming. The air was warm, soft golden light filtered through white curtains, and the faint smell of pancakes drifted from somewhere nearby. Her fingers clutched a thick blanket, clean, soft, and smelling faintly of lavender. For the first time in months, she wasn't cold. Then reality came crashing back. She sat up suddenly, her heart racing. Where was she? She remembered the park, the man in the suit, the little girl with kind eyes. And then, the car. She swung her legs off the bed and looked around. The room was simple but elegant. White walls, a large window overlooking the city skyline, a vase of fresh lilies on the dresser. Her backpack sat on the chair beside folded clothes, clean ones. Before she could even process it, the door creaked open. "Good morning," chirped a small voice. It was Lily, holding a plate stacked with pancakes shaped like hearts and stars. "Daddy made breakfast, but he burned the first 3. Arya blinked, startled. "Your daddy cooked?" Lily giggled. "Only for special people." A soft laugh escaped Arya before she could stop it. "Oh, then I must be really lucky." "You are." Lily grinned proudly. "Come on, Daddy's waiting." The kitchen smelled like vanilla and coffee. Ethan stood at the stove in a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, flipping another pancake with more focus than he used in business meetings. He turned when Arya entered, and froze for a second. She looked different now. Her hair was clean and brushed, her cheeks had color again, and though she still looked shy, there was a quiet grace about her. "Good morning," he said, trying not to sound as awkward as he felt. "I hope you slept well." Yes," she said softly. "Better than I have in a long time. Thank you for everything." He nodded. "You were freezing last night. I couldn't just leave you there." Lily ran to sit beside Arya at the table. "Daddy never lets anyone stay over, but I told him you looked like a princess in trouble." Arya laughed, her eyes watering. "A very messy princess." Ethan turned, sliding a plate toward her. "Eat. You need it." She hesitated. "I'll repay you somehow. I'll leave once I find a job." "You don't owe me anything," he interrupted gently. "Just stay until you figure things out." She looked down at her hands. "I don't want to be a problem." "You're not," Lily said quickly, offering her a strawberry from her plate. "You make the house happy." It was too quiet before. Ethan froze at that. Out of the mouths of children, truth often came raw and unfiltered. The house had been too quiet, ever since Claire's death. Too cold, too organized, too empty. But somehow, with Arya sitting there in one of his late wife's old sweaters, smiling shyly at Lily's chatter, warmth returned to the air. Days turned into weeks. Arya stayed. At first, she helped with simple things, cleaning up after breakfast, organizing books, tending to the garden. She never asked for money, never intruded. She simply fit in, as if she had always been there. Lily adored her. Every night, Arya read her stories before bed, making silly voices that made the little girl giggle until she fell asleep. Ethan would often watch quietly from the hallway, that faint ache in his heart easing a little more each night. Arya, however, couldn't help but notice the loneliness in his eyes. Beneath his calm, powerful exterior, he carried sadness like a shadow. One evening, after tucking Lily in, she found him sitting by the fireplace, staring at an old photo, his late wife, smiling, holding a baby Lily. "I'm sorry," Arya said softly. "I didn't mean to interrupt." Ethan shook his head. "You didn't." He set the frame down. "It's been 3 years. You'd think it gets easier, but it doesn't," she finished for him. "It just changes shape." Their eyes met across the firelight, two broken souls recognizing the same kind of pain. "Tell me about her," Arya whispered. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "She was kind. Too kind for me. She used to bring home stray cats, stray people. I guess Lily takes after her." Arya smiled softly. "And maybe you do too." He looked at her then. Really looked at her. Her eyes were tired but gentle, her voice fragile but steady. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something stir in his chest that wasn't grief. A few nights later, Ethan found her sitting outside on the balcony, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside her. She quickly wiped her face. "It's silly. I was remembering my mom. She died last year. Everything fell apart after that. I lost my job, couldn't pay rent, and," she laughed weakly, "I ended up on that bench." Ethan's throat tightened. "You should have asked for help." "I did," she said quietly. "But no one listened." He reached out, covering her trembling hand with his. Someone's listening now. She looked up at him, eyes wide and shining with tears. The silence between them was filled with unspoken emotions, pain, gratitude, and something new, something fragile blooming beneath it all. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to thank me," he replied softly. "Just promise you'll stay warm. And stay." She smiled faintly. "I'll try." Months passed, and laughter returned to the Cole mansion. Arya taught Lily to bake cookies. Ethan found himself leaving work early just to have dinner with them. They weren't family. Not yet, but it felt like one. One snowy evening, as Lily danced around the living room singing Christmas songs, she slipped her small hand into Arya's and whispered, "Please don't ever leave. Daddy smiles more when you're here." Arya froze. Her eyes lifted, and met Ethan's across the room. He was watching her quietly, a faint smile curving his lips, his eyes warm and full of something she couldn't name. And in that silent exchange, she understood. Sometimes, the family we find by accident becomes the one that saves us. And sometimes, one small question, "Daddy, why is she sleeping on the bench?" can change 3 lives forever. As the car pulled away, the city lights blurred behind them. Ethan glanced in the mirror, Lily leaning on his shoulder, the young woman gazing out the window, his coat wrapped tightly around her. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But somehow, he knew this night would change all of their lives forever.